We are about to listen to an episode of One-on-One with Mitch Lafon, but before we do that, I just wanted to let you guys know the best way to support Mitch is with a PayPal donation. Go to the PayPal website and donate to Mitch. His account is MitchMinute at AOL.com. Again, that's MitchMinute at AOL.com. Also, be sure to go to Talking Metal Digital and check out all the great shows we offer. Mars Attacks, Talking Metal, and of course, One-on-One with Mitch Lafon. You can also listen to Talking Metal Digital 24/7 on internet streaming radio on Live 365. Just go to live365.com or download the Live 365 app for your Droid phone or iPhone and search Talking Metal. The cool thing about the live stream is that we play music and shows 24/7, and that music comes across in CD quality. It sounds great. Check it out, guys. And now, here he is, Mitch Lafon.
And welcome to another episode of One-on-One, and I'm your host, Mitch Lafon. Of course, like many of my episodes, this one is brought to you by Heavy Montreal, which takes place on August 9th and 10th at Parc Jean Drapeau in Montreal, and this year features Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, Lamb of God, Offspring, I could just go on forever, Voivod, 3 Days Grace, Body Count, Overkill, Exodus, on and on and on. And my co-host today is Andrew McNeese, who owns, operates, runs, takes care of everything at melodicrock.com. How are you doing today, Andrew?
Mitch, how you doing, buddy?
Good. So we're doing this sort of straight over from Australia to Montreal. Isn't the internet and technology great?
It's a crazy world. I love it.
So, I'm so glad that you joined me on this episode, because you actually have a hand in both artists in a sense. I interviewed Keagy. Keagy? How do you say his last name?
Keagy.
Keagy. Boy, that name. There are a few names in the rock world that for some reason my brain just will not compute. But Kelly from, of course, Night Ranger, and we spoke about their new album, High Road. It's a great album, and it really sounds like it's a solid melodic rock. And as I was telling Kelly in the interview, which we'll hear in a minute, it makes you want to hop in your car and open all the windows.
Yeah, it's a great driving record, that's for sure. It's a good fun album.
It really is. Now, what I found interesting about it is when I got a press release, in my inbox recently, it said, listen to the new single on melodicrock.com. So tell me a little bit about that. What's the single, and how did Melodic Rock get involved in all this?
Well, I've been friends with the Night Ranger guys for forever, basically, since I started the site, way back when I first interviewed Kelly back in... Kelly was one of the first interviews I ever did. So back in 97, when they were doing the Feeding Off the Mojo album, and when they got back together in 98 or 99 for a Japanese record, I interviewed Jack Blades then, and they've been friends ever since because they're just great guys.
Yeah.
And
they really encompass what your site's all about. I mean, you're melodicrock.com, and you don't get more melodic rock than Night Ranger.
Oh, the poster boys for the genre, absolutely. If somebody said to me, what does melodic rock sound like? There's half a dozen bands that you just pick out and say, this defines the genre and the sound, and Night Ranger would probably be on the top of that pile.
Well, let me ask you
about
that
one of my
quick.
favorite bands of all time. Sorry, man, I'll just the slight delay here. Just one of my favorite bands of all time. They're just great. Loved them.
Well, since you are, the guy from melodicrock.com, and you're the melodicrock.com, expert, what would be the sort of best 3 or 4 or 5 melodic rock? Which ones do define the genre? Night Ranger is one.
Oh yeah, Night Ranger's one.
Styx, perhaps?
Look, I wouldn't say Styx because.
Okay.
But they sure do, but they have so much more to their music. So, there's classic rock, pop rock, bit of prog, bit of, theatrical stuff. So Styx is really varied.
Okay, Journey, perhaps?
some of their stuff, yes, but
Okay, so give me another couple then.
Well, I'd say Night Ranger. These are bands that you could pull out any album,
right?
And they all define the genre. I'd say Harum Scarum out of Canada is another one.
Absolutely, great band.
Lesser known, of course, but absolutely fabulous and consistent across every single record of their career. I'd say Mr. Big is another one.
Oh, that's a good pick, actually.
Yeah, Danger, across both singers.
How about Honeymoon Suite? Come on, Honeymoon Suite. A little more love for Canada.
For Canada, I love Canada. Yeah, absolutely. Great band, good guys too.
So you mentioned feeding off the Mojo, and during the interview, I asked Kelly about that, and I'll let you listen to the interview for the answer. But what were your thoughts about that album? Because in a sense, there was no Jack Blades, and it was sort of three of the guys trying to, well, actually two of the guys with that other singer. Good album, not good album, worth a listen for folks who don't know it?
Oh, look, it's an absolutely fantastic album, and for me, it's one of the best albums of the '90s because it came out right in that that void of the mid '90s where life was just getting sucked out of good rock and roll by these horrible alternative bands and stuff. And Jack was off doing his own thing with Tommy Shaw and Damn Yankees, and Kelly, he wanted to make some music again.
Yeah.
And, he got together and did the Mojo album, which...
with Gary Moon, by the way, the singer.
With Gary Moon, who's another fantastic guy and a huge talent. And one of the quirkiest, funniest, just crazy guys you'll ever meet, I tell you. And they did that album as the beginning of a new Night Ranger, but, it didn't do a lot of business. I think the US label went bankrupt, and, shortly after they got a big money offer from Japan because it did really well in Japan.
Right.
But so they got a big money offer from, one of these Japanese labels at the time that had a lot of money behind them to come and do a reunion of the five members, and they did that. And so Mojo ended up only being a one album kind of deal. And in hindsight, it could have been called something different, but it was supposed to be the start of a new Night Ranger era.
Yeah,
and I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's a really dark and moody kind of a record, and really contemporary for the mid '90s, but without sounding, like a horrible cash-in, sell-out, grungy type thing, which so many other bands did.
Yeah, and 1995, I guess, was not sort of the best year to release anything that was melodic rock or had a name like Night Ranger or KISS or Aerosmith or any of those bands. It was sort of like, into the void, right?
It was a black hole of good music that year. Absolutely. 93, 93, 94, 95, 96. And then things started turning around in Europe and Japan, giving bands an alternative option, than the American market. And, as we know, a lot of bands came back to life and returned to their roots over that time.
Yeah, but it's I think the whole genre, especially with hair metal, sort of started coming back when Poison started doing that summer jaunt that they did for like 5 or 6 years, where they brought out Quiet Riot and Warrant and all that. But hey, well, listen, why don't we listen to Kelly speak about the new album, High Road, and of course, feeding off the Mojo and everything else we spoke about. Folks, here's Kelly. We're speaking with Night Ranger drummer Kelly. How are you, Kelly?
I'm doing good. I live here down in Tennessee. I've been here for like 12 years, and life is good down here. I like it a lot down here, and actually looking forward to getting out on the road, though. We've been working on this new record for 8-9 months, and we're ready to start playing.
Well, let's talk about High Road. Now, I was lucky enough to have been sent in advance, and it's a great sounding record. I mean, it's this nice melodic rock, hard rock kind of. It's perfect summer music, I got to say.
I heard that from other people that, and which we didn't really think about that. We were just, we actually went in with a clean slate, like in December, January, like that of last year, and we just started writing stuff from scratch, just from musical bits and jamming and grooves and stuff like that, and didn't really have any idea how it was going to turn out, and then we started to go on tour last year, and things got, it kept getting pushed back, and we'd come back every 6 weeks and we'd work on it and have another couple tunes, and it was a really long process, longer than we've ever imagined or ever done in the past with other records. We usually just you take like 3 months. You say from January to April you're going to work on the record,
Mm-hmm.
and who knows how long it's going to take. And then suddenly it was like, oh, we have all these dates, so we got to go play. We got to go do this. We got to rehearse.
We got to get out there now.
Pretty soon. Yeah, we're ready to get out, man.
Let's you look at Night Ranger's history. You've got Sister Christian, and You Can Still Rock in America, and Don't Tell Me You Love Me. You could go out on the road and sort of just play the hits and not have to burden yourself with studio recordings and writing songs. What motivates you to actually get into a studio? Because in a sense, you could just go out there and play the hits and people would still show up, right?
Well, I mean, I think so. I mean, but at the same time, I think, they want to hear, what we're doing and what,
Okay.
what's new with us and musically and stuff like that. So I think that, I think fans want to hear some new stuff, but they don't want to hear like the whole record, of course. They want to hear a couple new songs. But for us, it's a challenge of, can we write a good song? Can we make a good record? It's about that. It's always been about the song with us. It's like if we don't have a good song, then we just don't even bother.
Right.
And sometimes you put filler on the record, but there might be a musical moment in it, and that's the reason why we have it on there. But so it's all about just trying to move forward and trying to keep things fresh, for us, because otherwise, why don't we just stay home and be with our families?
Yeah, it's a very good point. Now, you also sing on the album. How is that different when you approach the studio recording, knowing that you're not just doing the drums? Do you prepare yourself differently, and why sing?
Yeah, well, you know what? That's weird. I mean, I think it was out of necessity back when I was a kid, because nobody else could really sing
Right.
Or knew the songs, and so I just took over, started singing, and then it just went from there. And then when we started this band, we thought it was really an interesting perspective, to have two lead vocalists.
Absolutely.
And so that was the whole idea with that. And then of course we had the problem of like, you're going to have the drummer sitting way in the back and covered with cymbals and drums, and so we decided to, have it be, like a different play visually as well. So we wanted to have, a live thing going on as well,
Is that so? It's something you enjoy doing, obviously.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. I mean, I like both of them, a lot. I like, seeing how much I can get away with vocally and drumming wise. Sometimes can be a challenge.
Now, speaking of challenges, let's go back to 1995 for a second. You come out with an album called Feeding Off the Mojo, and it's you, Brad, and you pick up Gary Moon, and you call it Night Ranger. Looking back on that period of time and that album, was it the right decision to make that album? Was it the right decision to call it Night Ranger? And then, how important is Jack Blades to the whole Night Ranger legacy?
Oh, he's very important. I mean, and that decision was just kind of like, managers were saying, if we send this out to radio, they're going to be more likely to pull that name out, and we got the blessing from Jack, to use it because it was the same management company that was managing him in the damn Yankees. So he said, fine, see what happens. And so that was kind of like the decision. It was kind of like a business decision, but at the same time, it wasn't Night Ranger. It wasn't Jack.
Right.
And at the time, it wasn't Jeff and Fitz, you know.
Right.
So, you know, all those components were pretty important at that time. And, you know, but now we realize that the three of us, you know, which, you know, we've been together before Night Ranger. There was another band that we were in called Rubicon.
Yeah.
And so we realized that those three components are really the things that's the gum that sticks us together, you know.
Yeah. How important is Jack, though, in terms of his writing ability? Does he write most of the songs, or, you know?
On the last two records, you know, well, of course, you know, Jack is very important because lyrically, you know, he's very important. He always has great ideas for, you know, titles and stuff like that. Right. And the last two records, you know, Somewhere in California and this record, you know, we've gotten in and just hammered out everything together. I mean, we would start writing lyrics together. We'd come up with titles together. You know, a lot of the music was written by the three of us, or all of it was. And then we'd have tracks to you know, like a canvas to write to. So we would start musically, then we would, and during that time when we were coming up with the music, we would be coming up with chorus melodic ideas, you know, for melodies and stuff. And then we would put those down, and then we would go back in there and say, well, what do you want to write about with this thing? And him and I would sit around, or you know, Brad would come in too, and we would start to write things, and then we would finish them off as it went. You know, the weeks went by.
What do you write about at this point in your career? I mean, or let me rephrase it. Has it changed? I mean, there's always these stories that when you're young and you're full of, you know, piss and vinegar, and you really want to get things going, that you have a certain, you know, attitude and hell-bentness on what you write, and then as you get older, it's like, oh, well, what am I going to write about? Did you feel that at all, writing this album?
Yeah, it's, you know, it's definitely tough, and while you're in the process, it's, you know, it can be frustrating because you're like, you know, we want to write, you know, about what's going on with our lives, right, and not so much like, you know, 30 years ago when we were, you know, chasing women and driving cars and
that's right,
and stuff like that. So, you know, so it's like we have to try and change our perspective a little bit, but still keep it, you know, young enough to not feel like we're just a bunch of old guys writing stuff. You know, it's like we don't want that to happen either. So that's another reason. There's another big challenge there too. You know.
Yeah. Now, when we were speaking about the other album, you mentioned management had made this decision. You're currently managed by Doc McGee, and of course he's managed Bon Jovi. He tried Guns N' Roses for a bit, Motley Crue, KISS. What does a personality like John Bon Jovi? What does a personality like Doc McGee bring to the band?
You know, Doc is one of those guys that is just such a street savvy, you know, smart businessman.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he understands, you know, good music, good songs, and what, you know, people want. You know, and so he's got that input on there too. And James Blades, which is Jack's son, is the one that does the day-to-day stuff out of the office for us.
Okay.
And so we're pretty connected. You know, James was born and raised with the band Night Ranger, so he grew up with us. So he's got a definite connection there. You know, with you know, he was on the road with us for, you know, the first 10 years, and Damn Yankees, and then, you know, back with us again, and now he's managing. He's been doing it for about 10 years out of the office now, you know. So there's a connection there, yeah.
That's actually kind of cool. That I didn't know that it was his son doing that. That's actually kind of cool. Another project you're involved with, or at least you were, I don't know if you still are, is Scrap Metal with Mark Slaughter and the Nelson Brothers. What's going on with Scrap Metal? Is there going to be an album? You did a show, I think, in February in New York. Is there any other shows coming up?
You know, and I was just talking with management about this, not our management, but their management, about, you know, we should be thinking about doing a record because, you know, it's few and far between the gigs come up because we're all so busy with our own careers, you know, and it started out with, you know, we had Eric Martin in here and Jim Peterick, and, you know, we had you know, a big cast, and that's the record I'd like to do. with have a song by with Eric Martin, have me sing a song, the Nelson Brothers, Mark Slaughter. I mean, that would be a tremendous record, and especially if we wrote everything together. So yeah, I'm looking forward to something like that happening in the future.
Yeah, that would be actually very cool. Let's speak. I know I'm going all over the place, but let's go to Brad Gillis for a bit. 1982.
Oh yeah.
He heads over to the Aussie camp for a bit. At that time, were you afraid that he might not come back? And of course, what did him coming back mean to the band?
Well, I mean, when he came back to the band, and we were unsigned, and then recently signed after he came back. He was a big star, and I think it really helped the band a lot because he came off of that tour. It was when Randy Rhoads tragically passed, in the plane crash, and he came in to that band and brought some freshness and youngness to that whole thing, just like Randy did, and kind of kept that rolling. And then when he came back to us, and we had demos of some of the songs, already done, and we were shopping it. And, I mean, the fact that he did establish himself was a big plus for us.
Do you think
he's an unbelievable guitar player? Even if he was unknown, he would have probably been a big star on his own,
Yeah. Do you think that was a turning point in Night Ranger's career, that he actually had that exposure, that Aussie sort of aura, rubbed off onto the band, or was Night Ranger sort of destined to be great anyway?
Well, I think it was both. I think that really helped it because you always need a little extra something, a little extra push, when you're just coming out with a new record and a brand new band.
Yeah. So,
excuse me, I'm sorry. Allergies, but so that helped. But also, I just think throughout our career, it's always been about good songs. Even with that former Night Ranger band we were talking about feeding off the Mojo. I mean, I think that the best thing about that thing was the songs. We probably would have been okay without using the name, but it is always about the song, I mean, I think that's the bottom line, no matter who the band is,
No, you're absolutely right. Is Brad underrated? Because when you see those top 10 list of guitarists, you'll see an Ace Frehley, and you'll see, the guy from Def Leppard.
Absolutely.
But Brad gets left out.
There's no doubt
a bit.
about it. There's no doubt about it that for some reason he doesn't get the love from that community. I mean, really, I think Jack and Brad both, Jack doesn't get enough notoriety about the songs he writes and the great projects he's been a part of. I just think that's just kind of the nature of the business. It's like it's whatever's the newest, or the biggest stars always get listed, and then the newest and up and coming stars get a lot of action. I mean, it's just the way it is, And I don't fault anybody for that. I just think that the fact that we're still out here after 31 years and we're still able to play together, and we love playing together, the three of us, and then also with Eric, Eric Levy and Joel Hoekstra being a part of the band for a good many years, we have a really good, solid unit now.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you were just saying, though. The reason that you've had this success for these 30 plus years. It's just that it comes down to quality songs. I mean, there's no gimmick. It's just quality songs, right?
We just got to sit there. We got to sit there and just and do good work, or do the best work possible. Sometimes, it's like you're not in the mood, and you got to put it down and come back. And I think that having all the time, to work on this record and to actually hone, the lyrics and melody and the arrangements, it really helped,
Yeah, it really does. So where do we go from here with High Road? So the album comes out in June, and then are we heading out on the tour, or are we doing just fly-in dates? Are we part of a package? What's the deal?
We're doing a lot of our own dates this year, but we are doing about eight or so dates with Boston.
Okay, oh, that's
and
great.
We're doing a bunch of dates with 38 Special too.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and 38 Special was a band that we toured with early on in our career in 1984. They put us on their tour when we were coming out with Midnight Madness. So that really helped. Probably did like 20 or 30 dates with them back in the day, and so it's going to be really nice to hook up with Don Barnes and the boys and also the dates with Boston. I mean, the last few years we played maybe 2 or 3 dates every year with them, and Tom and Gary Peel, lead guitar player of the band, are good friends of ours, and looking forward to seeing them and hanging with them. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just before I let you go, there was a rumor earlier in the spring or maybe late winter that Night Ranger was going to be part of this Def Leppard KISS tour. Was that actually ever a consideration, and did it just not work out, or was that sort of just one of these crazy internet rumors?
Well, you know, it was Vivian Campbell during an interview had said that, and we'd never been approached by it.
Right.
But you know, because that's KISS is the same as Doc, you know, the same manager. I know it. We were talking about it during the KISS Cruise that we were on with them, but it was never a real offer. It was never like, you know, come to the table, you know, what do you think? And so when Vivian was doing an interview, they said, "Oh yeah, I think he said like, oh yeah, I think we got Night Ranger on there." I don't know how that came about. That it was a solid, you know, package at that point. I don't think it ever was. I just think that he was, you know, he said that during an interview, so that's where it came from.
Yeah, because it would have been a great package. Since you mentioned the KISS Cruise, and I know that we're 2 minutes over our time here, but how was the KISS Cruise experience? Was that fun, or was it a complete disaster?
Oh, you know, I mean, those things can be hit or miss. I mean, we've done the Monsters of Rock, but the KISS cruise was really great. I mean, I can't say enough about it, because not only was it great playing with them again, and they were like actually one of our first tours. You know, they got put on. So it was really great to hang with them. But it was all these great bands on there with us that we got to hang with, which you never get to do, because everybody's out there on tour, you know, and doing separate dates and all over the place, and you never get to see these people. And so it was great for like 3.5 days to be able to hang with some of these bands, so yeah, I mean, we really enjoyed that. I mean, I hope I get a chance to do it again.
Yeah, no, I've never got a chance to do it. I might have to consider it someday. And then finally, is there any retirement in sight for Night Ranger, or do you just keep going until you can't?
Well, we keep going because we love it, and so I mean, I think that's what's going to be the whole deal, is that as soon as we don't like it anymore, or as soon as we don't really feel like we're you know, able to really like play with the energy that we love to play with, which is like, you know, that youthful thing that we started with back in 1982. You know, as soon as we don't feel like it's viable, then we'll hang it up. But I don't think it's going to be anytime soon.
No, and from the album High Road that I just heard, I don't think there's any retirement coming down the road anytime soon. I mean, it's really great. It's a great.
That's great. Thanks so much, Mitch. I appreciate it.
And well, thank you for your time today. And sorry for going over. They told me 15. We're at 20. My apologies.
That's all right. That's all right.
But thank you. It's been a great pleasure.
Well, take care, and I hope to get to meet you sometime, Mitch. Take care.
Absolutely. Bye-bye. And there you have it. There's Kelly from Night Ranger. I hope you enjoyed that. And let me just quickly remind you that One-on-One with Mitch Lafon is brought to you by Heavy Montreal, this year featuring Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, Twisted Sister, 3 Days Grace, and many more. Takes place August 9th and 10th at Parc Jean Drapeau in Montreal. And of course, if you want more information, visit heavymontreal.com. Well, there you go, Andrew. So, Andrew, here now we're going into part 2 of today's episode. And we're speaking all about Lillian Axe, and I sat down for half an hour with Steve Blaze, and we went through the entire history of the band. We spoke about Robbin Crosby of Ratt producing the first album. We spoke, of course, of the new album, One Night in the Temple. We spoke about making new music in the future. Just a lot of great content. And he was so open and honest and very, very affable. Great conversation. But you have a special connection to this release because it's actually something that for outside of the North American market is being released by your label.
Yeah. Look, I've got it's a small label. It's a. I don't pretend it's anything bigger than what it is. It's
what's the name of it?
A Melodic Rock Records. Very imaginative there. Yeah.
Of course.
If you've got a brand, you might as well use it. But yeah, no, I've got pretty good distribution in Europe through a cooperation with Cargo Records, which are the biggest independent sort of rock distributor in Europe.
Yeah.
And
are
based in the
you in
UK.
Contact with John Dryland?
Yeah, John's been a buddy of mine again for 15 years. So I just I was trying to find out. Yeah, he's awesome. He's a great ambassador for the music and stuff. And I was trying to find out. I'm trying to work out a new way to run the label because doing it all from here in Tasmania, at the arse end of the world was just completely unviable. And costing me a packet with shipping and freight and stuff. And he said he'd take over everything and do it out of the UK and take it all out of my hands where I don't have to do all the boring stuff. And I just get to, release some great music that I believe in. And Lillian Axe's manager came to me and said, hey, we like what you're doing. We need a partner for Europe. Are you interested? And I said, let's have a listen. Sounded great. Wasn't familiar with the new singer, obviously, because, Lillian Axe have made a lot of changes over the years there.
Yeah,
but
we spoke to Steve about that, about having, a dozen or 20 different guys in and out. But, but we'll get to the interview for that. But, yeah, new singer.
Yeah, and it just sounded great. I really like the way they rearranged the material and the way they performed it. It reminded me of the awesome Tesla album, of the acoustic album they did.
Right, 5-man acoustical jam.
Yeah, which is my favorite acoustic album ever, I think. I just thought, that's great.
What I liked about the One Night in the Temple is the, for the lack of a better word, the intimacy that it creates, because it's not just song, okay, great, album over. But at the beginning of each song, the band talks a little bit about what they were doing, where they were, here's a story, here's why, and just the way he speaks it's not scripted, it's not like stage banter, like, when you go see some bands and it's always the same stage banter. It just, there was sort of this emotional connection to the music and to that audience that was there that night when they recorded it. And of course, then the performances, it really is a nice package. And it comes with 2 discs and a Blu-ray. If you're a fan at all of Lillian Axe, it's obviously a must-get. And if you like this kind of music and you like acoustic stuff, it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I think it's just a great sounding package. And I like the way they presented it. So I said, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so you know what? Let's listen to Steve Blaze of Lillian Axe talk about the album and all that other stuff I mentioned, and then when we come back, let's talk a little bit about the changes that are upcoming at melodicrock.com. I think you're revamping the site, and let's talk quickly about Melodic Rock Records and if bands out there and how they can send stuff and how you work. But first up, here is Steve Blaze of Lillian Axe talking about One Night in the Temple. And here we go. Here's Steve. So we are here with Steve Blaze of Lillian Axe. How are you, Steve?
Hey, Mitch. Good to talk to you. How are you doing?
Good. Absolutely wonderful. You've got a lot of good stuff going on. You had a Convergence box set that I want to talk to you about. But right now we've got One Night in the Temple. And it's not just your regular release. It's this massive 3-disc affair. Why don't we just get started about that? What was the concept behind it? It's all acoustic, obviously.
Yeah, it's all acoustic. It's 2 CDs. Each set's about an hour long. Kind of goes. I guess it kind of soars across our career from our first album up until now. And there's a DVD or Blu-ray disc that accompanies it.
Yep.
Of the, it's actually more of a documentary than an actual movie of the show itself. In between songs, I do interviews, and there's backstage footage, rehearsal footage, just Q&A with fans, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sort of a documentary.
Exactly, and it's long. It's like 2.5 hours long if you take the whole show plus all the other stuff added inside of it. It's really, it really broke up just the monotony of a show. Constant songs playing. No matter, like I said the other day, it could be Elvis and Jimi Hendrix playing together, and after a couple hours, the human mind doesn't have that much attention span, and so we wanted to break it up to make it interesting and kind of give importance to each song, because the clips in between pertain to the song that's coming up, etc. And it wound up being an entire event. It started off where I just wanted to do maybe 15 or 20 of our friends and fans kind of almost like sitting around a campfire with 2 guitars and just singing, playing, talking about the material in the band. And then it just started to grow exponentially into this event where we had an hour-long question and answer, 2 sets, catering, meet and greet after the show, that kind of stuff. So it turned out to be like a 6-hour-long thing. And to actually mirror what happened that night, not only physically but emotionally and spiritually, it took a lot of tedious work and in editing to make sure we captured everything. I wanted the feel of that night to be captured in what we put out on the CD and the DVD, and really did a very remarkable job with the help of a lot of people to really capture how important that night was. And so they just kept growing. Next thing you know, we're having a contest, and we're going to have 60 people win, and their guests and our families and friends, and it turns into a big event. We have production, and we bring the whole band in and start to put all these little cool little events surrounding it, and it just turned into this big production instead of just a couple of people sitting around talking about songs playing on 1 or 2 guitars. So very happy with the way it came out. Yeah. A lot of people put a lot of hard work into it, and at the end of the day, it really did capture the emotion of that night.
Yeah, and it really does sound great. Now, is this something that was sort of one done, or do you think maybe since it was so successful that you want to try it again next year, or take it on the road and bring it to different cities?
Well, we've always, since the beginning, performed a lot of acoustic things, not necessarily full shows, but we have
but I'm talking like the whole sort of, it was almost like
a
like
Lillian
the whole
Axe
event,
fest,
right?
Right. I thought about that. We might, pick a few cities and make a whole event out of it, where, we're playing and we're, doing the Q&A and turning it into this, a kind of one acoustic night. Never, we did a couple of acoustic shows back in like the Psycho-Schizophrenia tour, and we did a bunch of cover songs and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. People enjoyed that, but it's really hard to keep us all sitting in a chair for 2 hours. We like the full electric set, but it's not beyond the scope. This Saturday coming up, we're doing an in-store in Jackson, Mississippi at an FYE in a mall, which is, that's like a rarity in itself to have a music store in a mall still.
Yeah,
and so we're going to play an acoustic set, not for long, maybe a half hour. But, those kind of things, we always did that, man. We went around everywhere, so we do have a penchant for that. And we do really enjoy doing that, too. But I don't know if we'll tour like that. But, for example, in July, we're doing an acoustic show, just me, Sam, and Brian up in Illinois with Eric Martin from Mr. Big and Randy Jackson from Zebra, and I think Ted Poley from Danger Danger. So an all-night acoustic concert with all 4 acts. So things like that are interesting, but I don't know yet, to be honest with you. I'm so aching to get back out playing full-out live electric that I don't know if that'll, may just be some specialty things here and there.
Well, the last sort of full studio album came out in 2012. Are
right.
you already starting work on the next one?
Yes, I am right now. It's all jumbled up in my head right now. I'm actually getting ready to start demoing songs.
Oh, good.
And I'd like to get in the studio by the end of the year. And my ideas, usually when I have a concept for something, whether it's the box set or the acoustic thing or for the next record, I'm fortunate that they usually come to fruition in the way that I envision them. And the things that I have in mind for the next album are really going to take us to a whole new level. I mean, very intense, dynamic, dramatic record.
When you think of the next record, do you at all think of the current musical state and say, "Oh, I've got to throw in a little this band and a little that band"? Or
no, never do that anymore.
Okay,
we were, back when we first came out, and we saw that radio was playing Ratt and Crew and Bon Jovi and stuff like that. I knew that, if I wrote a 5 or 6 minute song, it wasn't going to get played because that was told to you, basically. But I never let it really dictate how I wrote or what style. Now, stylistically, it may have been affected because, when you're fans of certain bands, and you admire certain things that they do, there's no way that it can't influence you to a certain degree. Now, to try to sound like somebody else directly, never. But influence-wise, like, oh, I like that chord change right there, or I like the way this is mixed, or what that. Yeah, every single band on the planet Earth is affected by what he hears. If they say differently, people that say, oh, I don't ever listen to music, they're not telling you the truth.
Right.
But nowadays, as far as like me sitting back and thinking, well, this worked for Nickelback, I need to do this. I don't. I respect bands like that, and I like their music, but we have been around long enough. We have our own, back when Poetic Justice came out, we knew who we were and where our niche was. And at that point, I just, as you can tell, I've written some songs, 8 and 9 minute long songs, and really don't adhere to any type of boundaries. But, when you hear one of our songs, you know that it's a Lillian Axe song, or it sounds, you got a pretty good idea. We've developed that chemistry over the years. So I really don't think about what it is out there going on that it's popular, because first of all, I mean, if you look at the big scheme of music, the stuff that's really popular out there is, sorry, I can't stomach it, man. I'm not into rap, hip hop, and all that phony, stuff that's going on out there. Besides that, I just, we're not going to start,
we're not going to go
deep in our songs and rapping just because, that's what the kids are buying now. I'm not going to ever do that. That's ridiculous.
It is.
We do Lillian Axe music. You like it, we're there for you. If you don't like it, well, we appreciate that too. Go get whatever you need to get. But no, we're not going to compromise our integrity for just to be popular. It's funny that you said that, because somebody was telling me the other day, we were talking about the industry, and they go, "Do you realize how successful you've been?" I said, "Well, yeah, it depends how you define success.
Yeah.
You define success in what's important to me. I've been very successful. If you ask somebody else, well, you haven't you haven't sold 20 million records, so have you been commercially successful? Well, that's all relative too. No, we haven't sold 20 million records. Have I influenced a lot of people with our music over the years? Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the thousands, I'm sure. But that's how you define your importance. And when you're given the blessings and gift to be able to do something that you feel is a true representation of all of your efforts and everything, and it's doing good things for other people, that's success. Now, whether that's being a musician or a doctor or a mechanic or, a fry cook, be the best fry cook you can be. That's the importance. This world needs people on every level of achievement and effort.
And giving it all their best.
Absolutely. You just do the best that you can and try to do what makes yourself and other people around you happy.
Now, there's a couple of things that you mentioned that I want to bring up. First of all, you mentioned Ratt, and you also mentioned selling a bunch of records. So let me just explore those. Your first album was produced by Ratt's Robbin Crosby, and of course, may he rest in peace. What was that experience like, having Robbin come in? And, just because he was the guitarist in Ratt, did that make him a good producer?
No, that was Robbin's first attempt at producing.
Okay.
I don't know to what extent he worked with, who was it that produced the first?
Ratt, Bo Hill?
Bo Hill, yeah. I don't know to what extent that he worked with Bo on that. I don't know. But it was an honor that Robbin liked the band enough that he wanted to work with us and make us his first band that he wanted to produce. I'm very proud of that record. I learned a lot from working with Robbin, but he learned a lot too at that time. He did a good job. It's if the record would have sold 30 million records, every U2 would be calling him up wanting him to produce a record.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's all relative. But it was he was a great guy. I learned a lot from him. He was a very good soul. I tell people this all the time. I think he was kind of a tortured soul. I think he really didn't know how to embrace his position with his success. I don't think it ever really gelled well with him, and I think that's one of the reasons why he had the demons that tortured him. I don't think he just really felt comfortable in his skin,
Yeah, no,
he was
I
too
agree.
good of a guy to be where he was,
Yeah, and I have the unfortunate distinction of being the last person to ever interview him. And
oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I had called him at the Palliative Care Center, and now they asked me to call and stuff.
Right. Yeah, I spoke to him when he was there too at that time, and it was just really, really sad. And so, what did he say to you? Was he?
Well, he just went through the story of, Steven and the Ratt story and why it didn't work. And he sort of had felt abandoned that he was in this palliative care center and none of his, quote-unquote brothers from the band would show up and visit him. And
right.
It wasn't a very, it was absolutely fantastic. It was wonderful to speak to him. But the story he told was very, very much a tragic tale. And,
yeah.
Now you were talking about selling records and demons, and or you meant that he didn't control his demons, but that brings us to MCA Records.
Right.
Every band I have spoken to that have ever released an album on MCA Records in the 80s tells me the same tale. Basically, they suck.
Well, they were not lying to you. As a matter of fact, we toured with Alice Cooper twice and became friends. And he and I talked several times about his experience with MCA and how badly they treated him. So if they did that to him, and Elton John was on the label at the time, which people don't even know about that because
I didn't even know about that.
Into it. But
what was wrong? Why didn't they take a band like Lillian Axe seriously? Do you think your career would have turned out differently?
I really don't have any idea. We got signed by Irving Azoff, who left the label before we even started recording the album, and so then we had Al Teller was the president. I remember we kind of crashed a party at a hotel that he was at, and he's like, "Oh, you guys are on our label?" I was like, yeah, "Okay." Now we see where this is going, and for whatever who knows what the business reasons for it, what they did to bands like us, and
all right, let me rephrase it then. Was it frustrating for you? Because here, you had this band, you had Ratt's management that was backing you in a sense, with Robbin producing. You had everything you needed for success.
That's another. Our management at the time, you would have thought that was going to wind up being great, but we got rolled under the bus by him too. So, it was a combination thing. Sometimes I wonder if maybe they were doing this just to make a quick buck and if it's stuck to the wall, then great. If not, but, we got treated badly on both ends, and I have no idea why. But, when we're at that point where we're in our early 20s and we got a record deal, and no matter how much or how little they're doing for us, we can still say we're on MCA Records, we have a record out. Yeah. At that time, we're just thinking that all our hard work, it's inevitable that it's going to pan out. There's no way it can't work. We're out on tour, we're in a bus, no, we're not making any money, but hey, that's okay. I don't have to worry about that right now. When you're at that point,
you're living the dream.
You don't have a wife and kids and mortgage and responsibilities that you do 10, 20 years later. You just don't. And so, at that point, we figured it's coming. Just give us some time. And so we kept busting our butts and working hard, and here we are 25 years later, still doing it.
Still doing it. What life lessons did you learn from those experiences, though?
I learned, lessons that I really learned that I still don't really pay attention to. Like,
okay, what lessons should you have learned?
All right, I should have learned not to trust people that are smiling and telling you one thing and shaking your hand while they're looking at you, and think that they don't have a motive, and don't think that there aren't, the majority of people that come out of the blue and get involved with you for certain reasons, they've got their own motives behind it,
They do.
And I understand that. I mean, the guy in the drive-through at McDonald's has a motive when he's smiling and being nice to you. That's to keep his job and make sure that you're happy so you don't complain about his work. There's always a motive somewhere. But I also learned, that the only way to truly be happy and successful is to be right with yourself. Yep. Because you can't rely on these other people to do it for you. I've had so many lies and promises to me you wouldn't even believe. So many potential great scenarios, and then it's always somebody else dropping the ball. And that's another thing I learned too. No matter, you have to believe in it, and don't be disappointed when things crumble, because they will. And it's just a matter of, you've got to be strong on the inside for that. And and sometimes these things do pan out for you, and sometimes they do work out well. But you don't stop. You just keep on trying and pushing, because it's the right thing for you, and because it's building you in your journey. Making you a better individual and a better soul. Even if, it's like people tell me all the time, I'll see a homeless guy and I'll give him $20. I'm like, why do you do that? The guy just turned around and walked and handed it to another guy and then went back out to the street. It's a scam they got going on. I said, you know what? It's not for me to judge. I'm going to do the right thing because I think it's the right thing. I'll let God do the judging,
Let him figure it out.
My point is, always try to move forward and do things that you feel that are right for yourself and other people, and let God do the judging on that, whether or not you're going to get screwed over or somebody's taking advantage of you. Do things for the right reason. And so with that being said, that's been the biggest lesson, is stop looking to other people to make you happy or do things for you.
Or to make you happen. You got to take care of yourself.
You got to do it yourself. You're right, 100%.
And speaking of doing it yourself, and I don't know how much more time you have, but the 13 CD box set conversions, you essentially did do it yourself. You released it through the fan club or through your own website and stuff. Was it hard, first of all, to get all the rights to those albums back? And will you make it available to the general, again, like in a smaller release or a best of, or is it's done?
No, we're just doing it through the label. We own the rights to the stuff, so we just were able to do that. We've always been set up where after a certain amount of years we own the masters, so that's not a problem. Over the last, we've been involved, the last few records have been labels that have gone defunct.
Right.
So, in those cases, we own the master. So it wasn't a problem whatsoever. We only printed up about 250. They sold immediately.
Yeah.
And it was a cool thing. We're going to reissue them, too, in the future. The problem is that they're so expensive.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They cost like almost $50 a piece to manufacture and ship. And, shipping is, when I tell you that half of the orders came from out of the U.S., I'm not exaggerating, and they cost $25 a piece to ship, so it's not like a big money maker at all, but it's something that you really feel like is something the fans really appreciate, because of the fact that, they have problems finding some of the records. So,
yeah.
I was just happy to be able to do it so I could have a box set for myself, just to sit there and feel like, all these years of hard work and tears and sweat and everything and things you've gone through are sitting right in this box.
Yeah, it's got to be a proud moment to see that big monster box set sitting on your shelf going, that's all me. Yeah,
it's under the front seat of my car constantly. So, but you're absolutely right.
Now, Steve, do you have another 2 or 3 minutes?
Oh, I got how much ever time you need, my friend.
Okay, because I was told 15, and I was just trying to be respectful of that. But
no, you're good, man.
Okay, good. So let me ask you then, maybe the tough question. Lillian Axe has had roughly 20 some members come in and out over the years. At some point, do you say, okay, I got to just go on and be Steve, the solo artist, or I got to call it something different? And also, can you maybe speak a little bit about the importance of actually having a brand name? Because a lot of people don't seem to understand that building a name and having a name is really important.
You're absolutely right, and that's why you see no matter how big some acts become and their members go off to do other projects or solo, they never achieve. They seem, well, I should say, not they never. I'm sure there's been a few moments, but you hardly really see where they've reached that success because of the brand name. Fortunately for Lillian Axe, I've written all the bulk of the material, so that's always going to be a mainstay. But Sam and Ken have been in this band for 15 years.
Right.
So those guys have been with me a long time, and Eric's been with me for 8 years. So we've had I'm trying to think how many member changes we had. Probably about. What do you think? Did you add them up?
Well, I did. I mean, you'd say we had Craig Newmacher and Tom.
No. All right, let's go back from the start because you're making me think 20. I'm going, oh my God, there wasn't that many. All right, we had first album was Ron Taylor, Danny King, Rob Stratton, and John Sturr.
Correct.
Okay, that's 4 guys. Now those guys, Rob and Danny were with us for about 3 or 4 years. Right. And then we switched labels, and then Ron left like 2004, I think. So we've had 3 singers, all right? So we lost 2 singers, 2 bass players, Darren and Rob Stratton. And we've had 1, 2, 3. My brother Craig didn't play in any of the records. He just sat in as a filler for a few months. So
yeah, and he, by the way, he did great stuff.
On Black Label, oh yeah.
Yeah, I knew him from the Black Label days.
My brother's phenomenal. So we've had about 8 members that we've replaced over the years. 2 singers, we've had 3 drummers that we replaced, and 2 guitar players. Yeah, about 8 or 9 guys that we've made changes with. So that's not too bad.
No, it's not too bad. But but I mean, if you, I was sort of counting everybody that had a couple of seconds kind of thing. But
well, you can't really call Ronnie Monroe. He did 1 show, but that was it. And Craig went to Japan with us and did some dates, yeah. So, but actually recording on the record, yeah. It's really tough, man, because it doesn't really feel like we've really had that many member changes. I mean, we may, and who knows? Life goes on. But when you're around for 30 years, it's going to happen. Just like families.
And I'm not blaming it. I'm just
saying no. But, hey, look, sometimes, I think, even though my band now is like so tight and I feel like the best incarnation we've ever had. And, there's a part of everybody that wishes, you just wish you could have just had that original lineup last 25 years, but look, it's all good. We've never had anybody leave or break up that was bad where we were fighting and that's why it happened. Yeah. It's just been people saying, you know what, I don't want to play, I don't want to tour anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go try something different. And you appreciate that. And I know that as long as I keep the thing rolling myself, it's going to keep rolling.
Yeah, and I think some fans, and this is my own personal opinion, that they're a little too hard on this original member only kind of thing, whether it's you or KISS or whatever. I mean, if you look at Iron Maiden, well, Bruce Dickinson is not the original singer, and I think without him, the band wouldn't be where they are. Judas Priest, Rob Halford's not the original singer. I mean, sometimes changes bring about better things.
Oh, absolutely. The important thing really is to keep, I think the most important thing is to keep the core, the writing there, because the songs are what keep the people happy, right? Yeah. And so, if you keep the material and, still solid in that genre and vein or whatever, and that feel that's always been there, I'm never going to have anybody I'm never going to ever play with anybody that I feel is not the right person for this band. And hopefully I never have to make any changes, but I'm not saying that it couldn't possibly happen. You never know what people are. I mean, if you ask anybody right now, they'll never leave, but you never know what happens. Somebody, feels like they don't want to travel or tour anymore, or they just don't want to play music anymore, or they want to go in a new career direction. You never know.
So,
you know?
Let me ask you also about New Orleans and Louisiana. Coming out of there in the late 80s, early 90s, was it more difficult or was it challenging establishing a hard rock, metal band, for the lack of a better word, coming from that area? Or, I mean, you never really moved out. You sort of stuck it out.
Yeah, when we first started playing prior to that, there were clubs everywhere. And a band from down here called Zebra really kind of paved the way for rock to play clubs and stuff. And we were right in their footsteps, playing maybe a little harder stuff, like metal stuff. And there were venues everywhere through the South, man. We would play 4 or 5 nights a week, and it was nothing to draw 400 or 500 people on a Tuesday or Wednesday night. The scene was great. But it's like a few years after that, and I'll say this till the day I die, the local press never supported any of the rock acts.
Yeah.
And they still don't. They treat it like rock and roll is a bastard child, There's more attention spent on the local flavor and the tourist side of things, I mean, we've sold hundreds of thousands of records, and so is Zebra, and you'll never see us on the cover of the magazines or anything when we release a new record or anything. No. You never see any kind of stuff. But, Blind Melon Chitlin, who's playing down at the local tavern, who's just pressed his own CD, which is all great and good for him. He'll be all over the cover of everything because he's a local blues player from Terrebonne Parish or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like...
Were you ever given any pressures of, hey, you're from New Orleans, you should do blues or bluegrass or become a country star? Nobody ever tried to change you?
No. I think if anybody thought that, they'd know that I would not even pay attention to them.
So when you got into the Louisiana Music Hall of Fame, how did that feel for you then? That was sort of
indication.
Okay.
That's when I could sit back and go, all the hard work we've put into this, that is really, with humility now, a great badge to have, and I'll wear it proud. And they can't take that away from you, First hard rock band to be inducted, alongside of people like Jerry Lee Lewis and Little Richard, Fats Domino, that's a huge honor. And I was also equally proud when Zebra got inducted a little while after we did, because those guys deserved it. They were around before we were. And so that is something you can't take away, And
no, and it actually, just looking at, because I actually looked at all those names and stuff, it actually looks at the Louisiana Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is something that is earned, unlike the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which seems all political.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, and that was what was so cool, because we really never, in the early days, there was more, I guess there was a little more possibility of being locally promoted and whatnot. But nowadays, I mean, I don't even bother worrying about it anymore. You have the local rags and stuff that, you would think that, a band like ourselves would get the cover of these things when we have a new record coming out when we're playing down here. But, nah, man, they don't even, I'm doing interviews all over the world, but my own hometown is like oblivious to what's going on in the rock world down here.
I know. You're down there and you're talking to Montreal today, so.
That's right.
Go figure, right?
Well,
I guess we should tell people to head over to lillianaxe.com and, of course, pick up One Night in the Temple, which I was sent a copy, and it really is fantastic. And what I like about it is that it has an intimate feel to it, because at the beginning of every song, sometimes there's like a little 30-second talking, sometimes it's like a minute, but there's always a little bit of setting up the song that's not this sort of traditional stage banter that you can sort of ignore. It I don't know how to describe it other than just it makes it feel intimate, and it makes you feel
it's like you and I are talking right now. Yeah. I mean, I'm off the cuff. None of the things I was talking about were even. I did it on purpose.
Right.
And so I'm like listening to myself, and I'm like, loss of words sometimes, and stepping on my own words, and I'm just like, it's like I'm actually just sitting there talking to these people. I did not plan any of my discussions about the songs. I just said I'm just going to talk to them. in between songs about what's coming up and what this song means. I mean, when we were doing Bow Your Head and I was trying to explain about the little boy I wrote the song about, I actually got a lump in my throat and lost my word for a second, and you can see the tear in my eye welling up. I was like, wow, I really was about to cry. I felt like it, but I didn't know it was going to be picked up on camera. It was really an emotional moment. But it's a great package because it's a lot of music, and we really spent a lot of time with the editing of the show. We've got a lot of bonus footage on there too, as well, besides the show. And the acoustic, the CD sounds so good.
It really does.
The bass and drums, which are the backbone of any song, they really were just punchy, even though they weren't aggravatingly like some heavy records. The drums are so far out there that they take away from everything else. Yeah. This is comfortable and round, but still punchy and solid, and it allowed all the guitars and the vocals to just sit really nicely in the mix, and it just sounds so good. I was really happy with it. Rob did a fantastic mix on it, and my bandmates played great that night, did a wonderful job. The crowd was wonderful. They're singing in one song.
Yeah,
we have guest singers. We got a violin
Nobody
player.
knows.
Yep,
nobody knows the crowd version. That's it.
Yeah, they sing the whole thing, and I mean, it was not rare for me to look out in the crowd and see people with tears in their eyes or laughing and cutting up, and and we'd talk back and forth, and it was just really a cool moment. So if people that like our music, man, I encourage you to pick this up. I think you'll cherish it.
Yeah, I really think they will. And I'll just finish by saying this. I put it on and listened to it with headphones on, and it was just very trippy because it brings you in. It almost made you feel like you were in the room and that the guys were just in front of you doing the show. It really brought you into that moment, and that's job well done. Really, job
Thank you
well
very
done.
much. I appreciate that.
Steve, it's always a pleasure. So, next time the Electric album comes out, we should definitely do this again.
Anytime, my friend. And you have my number. You can reach me anytime. Anything I can do for you, let me know. And it's good talking to you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Take care, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And there you go. There was Steve Blaze of Lillian Axe. What a great conversation. I mean, absolutely fantastic to talk to. So nice. Very, very, very pleasant. So, Andrew.
Yes, mate.
You're at melodicrock.com. For the last 14 or 15 years or whatever it's been, it's had a very, how would I say it? No, I don't want to say a static look, but it's had a very, it's a look that we've all gotten accustomed to, and we come back and we go, yep, that's melodic rock. I know what it looks like. But you're throwing a curveball. You're changing things up.
Yeah, look, it's completely this design I've got at the moment. It's been there since 2002, I think. It's about 10 years out of date. So and I'm starting to lose traffic to the whole search engine algorithm that Google now uses with the whole, content management systems. And there's so much information on there. None of it is properly catalogued or indexed, and it's just horrible. So I've spent the last 2 or 3 years trying to work out the best way to do it, and we're finally ready to go. Yeah.
So when will this be online and ready to go? Now, are we talking middle of June? Are we talking July, or is it going to sort of pop up any day now?
No, we're talking a couple of weeks, I reckon. I'm going to. I've got some beta testers going to jump on there in the next day or two and play with it for a week. And then I'm going to take the site offline for a few days so I can get up to date and then add the latest content to the new design, which is fully working there in the background, and then launch it in a couple of weeks. I can't wait.
Yeah, I've got to say, and I don't know maybe if I should say this out loud, but I've had a sneak peek at it, and I think it looks absolutely wonderful. And being a podcast person, I especially like the section that's dedicated to different podcasts. I got to say thank you. That's great. Hopefully,
no, look, Yeah, there's so many. I get so many emails. Can you post this for me? Put this on the site, not only from you, but from other
of course.
other podcasts. And the new layout of the site. The site has always been a news-based thing. I'm trying to present news, but the way I present it is it's just impossible to catalog these days. And with people wanting to share everything via social media, the current melodic rock is just completely useless for that.
Right, it's very linear. It's scroll up, scroll down. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's see it all in one place, which a lot of people like, but it's just not practical for 2014 and moving forward. So the new designers, content management systems, like a lot of other sites, and I hope that it's different enough from what is now become the standard with a lot of sites that it'll still stand out, and it's still in that newspaper format with a bunch of different categories. And yeah, like you said, I want to put one in there for podcasts, so you can just go to the one section and find everything you want if you want to listen to some great little shows like yours.
Yeah, but that's really what I appreciated when I saw it. And it's not just the podcast thing, but if you wanted just to look at the news of the day, there was a section for news. If you wanted to look at reviews, it was very clean. Sometimes a lot of the sites, they're too messy. Everything is all jumbled together, and you have to scroll through page after page to go, okay, here's the review from June 10th, and now I got to scroll down. Oh, there's the review from June 3rd. 6 pages scrolled later, and the way you've organized it is really wonderful. And especially, I'll talk quickly about the podcasts again. There are a lot of them, and they show up in the middle of the news, and you can sort of never keep track of any of them. It's like, oh, I saw Mitch's podcast on May 5th, but he hasn't done anything till May 31st. And you're like, well, no, we've been going every day. It's just, So no, that's great. I think fans will really like it. And of course, your content has always been exceptional, because a lot of sites focus on the big bands, all your Def Leppards and all your Kisses and all this stuff. But you give a lot of the, and I don't want to sound insulting, but a lot of the lesser bands or lesser known bands, a little spotlight. And it's great, because I've discovered bands through there that I would have heard of otherwise. And it's nice to know that, melodic rock is going to cover that stuff that other people are ignoring.
Thank you, mate. I take pride in that, because there's a lot of great artists that don't have the budget or the money to become a major player, or they're new on the scene, so they're never going to have that exposure. That 20 years worth of history automatically gives you.
Yeah.
And, try and give those guys a voice, and, their music's just as good as everyone else's, and I get a ton of feedback. In fact, the most feedback I get is people saying, thank you for introducing me to this band or that, and they're always the smaller bands, because you hear about the others,
everywhere.
Most people that are into this music grew up with the other bands, so they know... they know them already, but they don't know who the new guys are and who who's going to still be around in 10 years, 20 years' time that's making music today. And
yeah, no, I mean, listen, if you talk like a band like Metallica, it'll be at Rolling Stone, it'll be at Brave Words, it'll be at Blabber, it'll be at Billboard, it'll be at all these different sites. But then you look at like some of the bands on your site, you go, like even this Lillian Axe. People will go, oh, where can I read about that? And right there on Melodic Rock, you'll find it.
You won't find it now, because it's a complete mess. But the new site,
at the new site, coming in June. Let's just say coming in June. Yeah, so
coming in June. It's got a beautiful search engine that just finds everything, and it's also got the new site's got a specific link to artists, which will index every single artist ever mentioned on the site as I go A to Z, and you just click on it, and there's every article ever mentioned. So
that's exceptionally useful, because listen, we just talked about Night Ranger and their band, feeding off the Mojo and all this stuff. we can now just go to the site, click Night Ranger, and we can scroll back and see your reviews over the last 15 years. We can see the times they were mentioned, and that's, as a fan, that makes it nice and easy. And that's
gonna be great. And as long as it doesn't take me 15 years to enter all this data in there,
Well, you got to keep you busy. So let's finish with this melodic rock records, which of course has the Lillian Axe. Do you take submissions? Can a fan that's listening to this now just say, all right, let me go on the site and send you something? Or are you specifically just looking for major artists?
Oh no, hell no! I'm open to anything. In fact, half the label, half my releases, I've got 20 releases on the label, and half of them are debut albums because they're just new bands that I heard and believed in and went, whoa, I really want to be a part of, helping these guys, find an audience. And so, yeah, I'm open to anything.
So what are some of the bands that you have right now that you're exceptionally excited over? I mean, again, I'll keep saying it. The Lillian Axe is great, and I know you're really excited about that. But what else have you got right now that folks should come and check out?
Well, just out this month is the Loud Lion album, which is a one-off project from Blue and Taylor Locke, who got together and just did a Def Leppard tribute, basically, except it's all original material. So if you love Hysteria or classic Def Leppard sounding tunes, then Loud Lion's your thing. And I've got another debut album from the Radio Sun, which is some friends of mine out of Melbourne, Australia, the first Aussie band I've got on the label. And they're just Rick Springfield, Marvelous 3, Nelson style, power pop rock, which is, just harmonies and choruses galore.
And of course, you've got your compilation albums every year.
Yeah. Try and do one a year, which is again just giving a whole bunch of songs that got left behind a chance to be aired, and some bonus tracks and some unreleased stuff, and half a dozen new artists per compilation. Normally, just giving people a taste of here's another band to check out.
And just before we go, tell me about two more things. You've got Sound of Eternity, a band coming out on MRR in June. Why should people check out Sound of Eternity? What's so great about them?
Look, they're just again another new band that came to me and said, "Hey, here's some tunes." I had to listen to them, and I said, "I love you guys. I want to help you out." It's mixed and played on by Eric Martinson from Eclipse and Wet. And so it's a really great punchy sound, and they're a Spanish band, a beautiful female singer, beautiful lead vocals, and they're actually a Christian band, which is another first for me. So it's a nice, positive, uplifting sounding album. Yeah. And another new band that probably won't get mentioned anywhere else, but hopefully I can help them find an audience.
And that's what's great about this. And of course, if anybody wants these albums, you obviously head over to melodicrock.com, and all the order information is there. And you've got Melodic Rock Fest number 4 coming up, still out in where is it? Indiana, is it?
The first one was in Indiana in 2007, and the last 3 have been in Chicago.
My mistake.
No, that's fine. It's all in the same sort of region.
When does it take place?
In October, first week of October, and we've got a lot of bands from Sweden. Everybody talks about the Swedish Revolution. All these great bands out of Sweden that everyone loves, like Heat and Work of Art, and again, you'll never hear on radio in America, but they all wanted to come out and play, so I made room for them.
Oh, good.
So Heat's one of the most acclaimed bands around at the moment. They're just everywhere in Europe, so hopefully America can realize how good they are as well.
Yeah, so that'll be a fun festival, and of course, information again is at melodicrock.com. And then lastly, let's end with this today. One of your favorite singers, or correct me if I'm wrong, is Steve Perry, formerly of Journey, and recently, at the end of May, he resurfaced and did a couple of songs with the band Eels, and videos, of course, all over YouTube. I know you watched it. Or
Yeah,
I'm assuming
yeah.
you watched it, but I know you. You
I sure
probably
did.
watched it. I
Of
watched it.
course, yeah.
I think he sounded great. Do you any significance? Do you think he just decided to come out and party, or do you think, he's making a comeback? This is my PR machine ramping up. Let's get. What did you think of the songs, the performance, and does it have any larger meaning?
Larger meaning, probably not.
Okay.
You know, from what I know about Steve, he just does things on a whim.
Okay.
And he obviously felt good about this, and it just went for it. And you know, it's everywhere in the last day and a half. It's just gone everywhere because everyone's so excited to see him back. You know, he's hinted about new music for probably 6 or 8 years, and I'll believe it when it happens. You know what I mean?
I certainly hope it happens.
I do too. He's one of the, just, you know, I don't care if he sounds half what he used to or whatever, but nobody has the tone and the soul that Steve Perry has, you know, at any point in his career. And I listen to him sing the phone book if I could. So I hope we do see some new music, you know, at some stage. But
it was exciting. I mean, it just gives you a little bit of, you know, when that showed up on the internet this morning, it gave me a little, oh, look at that. And another guy that showed up recently too was Phil Collins. I think it was down in Florida. He showed up at a high school band thing and did a couple of songs. And he's also been retired, for the lack of a better word. And it's sort of nice to see that those guys still have it and haven't sort of, you know, retired permanently.
Yeah, I mean, much imitated, but never duplicated, you know? Absolutely. They're one of a kind.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew, you know, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today and to talk Night Ranger and Lillian Axe. You know, when I interviewed those two bands, I said I just have to have Andrew on because I know he's a big supporter and a big fan of both, and it was an absolute pleasure. And of course, folks, check out the new melodicrock.com coming in June. And of course, don't wait. Check it out now so you can see what the old site looks like before it's gone forever. You know, and of course, let's remind everybody, one-on-one with Mitch Lafon, that's me. I have a hard time repeating my name. It seems sort of strange, but there you go. Is brought to you by Heavy Montreal, taking place August 9th and 10th at Parc Jean Drapeau in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. For more information, heavymontreal.com. And of course, this year, Metallica, Slayer, Lamb of God. You know, let's throw in some other bands that we haven't mentioned. Hatebreed, Municipal Waste, Symphony X, Whitechapel, Monster Truck. Monster Truck, by the way, a Canadian band that I think is on the verge of becoming the next big thing. You know, Anthrax, Slayer, Twisted Sister. There you go. That's everybody. Thank you.
It's a big lineup. Thanks for having me, Mitch.
Absolute pleasure. We'll do it again someday.
Sounds good, mate.
Bye-bye now.